What does optometry look like in Africa? What headwinds do optometrists face in Africa? On today's podcast, we're going to talk with Dr. Levi about how we can advance the profession of eye care optometry in Africa. Let's go. Welcome to Eyefrica Media, Africa's gateway to eye care. Join Dr. Darryl Glover and Obi Malopi for all things eye care in Africa. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Super excited to be here with my brother from another continent, but really my brother just all around, Dr. Levi. How are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, thank you, Darryl. I'm good. Good to have me on the show, man. I appreciate that.
Hey, man, super excited. You know, the things that you have done in eye care is just unmatched. You know, I don't think Africa as a whole, when it comes to eye care, would not be where it's at without you. There's about a handful of people that I can call on when I know there's something going on in Africa or any of the places out there, and you're one of them. And on today's podcast, man, I really want to dive deep into what does optometry look like on the continent Africa. You know, I really want to dive deep into, you know, the education. I want to dive deep into the access. I want to dive deep into the research, the collaboration that's needed. I really want to break it down, my friend. So I'm super excited that you're with me today. But before we jump too far into that, I think it's only right to set the tone to understand who is the man that's sitting in front of me today. So if you don't mind maybe sharing how you got into optometry and just kind of walk us briefly through what that journey looked like, if you don't mind, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Darryl. I think, my journey to optometry began by accident. And I say that because that's what it is. You know, I had planned to do medicine, but didn't make it through my high school JAMB result. I mean, it's a test you do to get into university. So there's a cutoff point where I fell short of that point. So I intended to transfer. So I went into botany. Botany was my first degree then.
Okay.
And 1 year into botany, I kind of thought about going into medicine, but somehow I stumbled into optometry. And to me, it was unique because I fell in love with that instantly. And I think, so thinking back now, I think it was because it was a unique course. People did not really know much about it, but yet I saw a powerful way to make impact in people's life. You know, that kind of drew me closer to the cause. And so growing up, I had seen vision loss, you know, and the detrimental effect it has on quality of life and employment, education. And I thought, look, if I could do this course and change one person's life through vision, then that's really what rewarding career looks like to me. You know, from that point on, when my dad was saying, "Do you want to go to medicine again after year one?" I said, No, Dad. I think I like optometry. What do you mean? Optometry second year? I said, yes. You sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. And then I didn't know much about the course, but going to second year, third year, I fell in love with this course. And since then, Darryl, I haven't looked back. My path has taken a turn from clinical practice to research to mentorship now, which is really what I love doing. And I think that has given me a new leadership role in optometry across Africa and in fact globally. So it's become my thing now, Darryl.
Yeah. Hey, man, I've been a witness. I've been on the sideline. I've been, you know, cheering for you and just seeing all the amazing things that you have done. But, you know, one word that I really want to hone in on and focus on is the word impact. You have made tremendous impact in my life, in all the students' lives, but also eye care in Africa in general, right? But the one piece that's very foundational is education. The impact that you made in that arena is just unmatched. And I would love to really dive deep into, you know, what does, you know, optometry look like for students right now when they're in optometry school? What does that education process look like? You know, share some, you know, pros, some cons, some gaps. Let's really break that down because Dr. Levi, there's a ton of people listening to this podcast right now. And they may say, you know what, there's a gap that I can come in and fill that void. So I want you to really use your voice and talk to us about, you know, where we're at, what headwinds we're facing, and what we can do to make things better, if you don't mind, my friend.
Yeah, Darryl, I think, look, optometry in Africa has really come a long way. It's evolved in the last decade. You know, there has been more schools of optometry established in Africa because there's need.
Yes.
And there's also gap in workforce. And again, it's a very valued profession, you know, because we graduate as doctors in most of the African countries. People kind of associate some prestige with this course. And that's really what we hold ourselves responsible for. We are the primary eye care providers, and many people value that position when they sit on your front of the chair and they are hoping on you to make their vision clearer. So I think for us in Africa, it's a very changing landscape. And like I said, it didn't start easy. Our older colleagues have fought the battle for us. There's all the struggle with ophthalmologists early on, and now we found our place in the profession. And the next stage is now sustainability for the young people. Now, how do we move on from where we are now to the next stage where there's technology, there's advancement, there's public health in this space now. WHO is now relying on optometrists to do a lot of work in preventing blindness. There's no better time to be an optometrist than now, and that's where the students come in. The students
Yes.
are the ones who are making the change that we need. They are the ones who know what technology can offer to you. They're the ones who've got the energy to change things. They're the ones who are really finding hope in the profession. And I hear a lot of the voices, Daryl. The students we have in Africa are lost. They are lost of, they don't have belonging. They don't think there's a place for them in the society. The profession is almost losing its stand if we don't imbibe these young people into what we are doing now, because they are the ones who the hope of optometry depend on. And I think with the mentorship that we are providing through AFOS, to the African chapter, we are seeing students telling us, look, we are now hopeful that there's optometry light in the future. We think they can change the world. They're now having this empowerment. They understand what evidence-based practice is. They understand what research gaps are and how they can use research to impact policy. I think that's sort of mentorship. By saying that we have walked the walk, Darryl. We have shown them there's a possibility that things can change with just one man and two person. When we have a community, Darryl, we move faster. And I
Yes.
think art is not just for one person, it's for all of us to collaborate. And the students are really keen to learn from people like you. I hear when you presented to us the other time, you could see the joy in the student that somebody like this is talking to them about hope in optometry. I mean, that's what I call on people to look at. How do we mentor the younger ones behind you? If you're the only person achieving success, Darryl, we're all doing worse. We want people to come along. We want to bring the young ones on board, and that's where collectively we can change things and make impact. Africa is huge. No
Yes.
single country, no single school can solve this problem. We need everybody, and that's where the African chapter comes in. We want to bring Africa together to impact lives and in a greater scale. I think that's what we're here for.
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, what I hear is community. What I hear is unity. What I hear is, serving as one. I hear, it's bigger than just that solo person. If we all come together, we can make a huge change.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned AFOS, and I would love for you to dive a little deeper into that, because I've been blessed to be a part of the organization that you kicked off, and just the conversations that I've had with some of the students, mind blown. Just the way they think, the way they move, the energy that you mentioned, how thankful they are for coming in to have that conversation.
Mhm.
I'm blown away. I always tell people, when it comes to mentorship, it's bi-directional.
Oh yeah.
It's just not me giving you information. It's also you
Mhm.
giving me information. The mentee and the mentor both equally add value to each other. And that's the one thing that I really seen when it comes to A4. So if you don't mind just giving a more of a high level overview of what it is. I know you touched on a few things, but I want the folks out there that are listening to really understand that there is an opportunity to join the organization to help bring them to where they want to go and elevate their career in optometry. Because there may be some students out there that aren't familiar with it in Africa. So let's give them a good overview of what that looks like, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. Look, Darren, I think sometime last year, I thought about how, what if I leave? Like you say, you always say when you drop the phoropter. If I leave and I drop my phoropter, what's next? And looking back now, I could tell you, yes, I've got students who are willing to take the mantle of leadership head on,
I love it.
because I had to look back. What do I leave when I'm off? Who takes on that same energy? Who takes on that same positive outlook of optimism? Who takes on that same change person? Who takes that leadership on? And the only people I could think of were the students. They were the students because I was once a student and I knew how difficult it was to walk through the difficult journey of being an optometrist. In fact, today the impact and the mental stress of being an optometrist is even more, because there's more expectations on students in Africa. Family heap their burdens on you. They hope on you. The community hopes on you. You graduate as a doctor, people hope on you to help other people. So,
Amen.
and yet there are no job opportunities there. There's no empowerment. You see where that becomes an added burden on the students. So I thought, what if we have a unified student body in Africa that sort of comes together where people can exchange ideas, where students can share information, where students can build skill sets, where they can learn together on the same platform and understand that optometry is more than just what a country offers. It's a global profession. And this is where AFOS started. We now called on several students. We invited the head of departments or different schools. Can you give us two names? Maybe one person who is your clinic lead, a student, or somebody who has your student organization. They were forthcoming. Every school we contacted sent us two names. We brought them together in a platform. What do you want to see happen in optometry? Darryl, the suggestions these guys came on were mind-blowing. The first thing, Levi, we need a unified curriculum. I'm in Ghana, but I don't know what optometrists in Nigeria are doing. I don't know what those in South Africa are doing. I don't know what those in Kenya are doing. I haven't even spoken to anybody. Now, sometimes I feel optometry is just on my space.
Right.
What else do I do after this? So students started talking to each other. They started exchanging ideas. They started thinking about unity. How can we have exchange programs? How can we understand how practice is done in Nigeria? Can we have people practice from South Africa, graduate in South Africa and practice in Nigeria? Is it possible that we can, as Africa, have an Atlantic movement? Can we move around and say, okay, I can practice in Nigeria and do my internship. I can go to Ghana and see what they're doing in the University of Ghana, Cape Coast. These are the things they started talking about. They started talking about research, data sharing, knowledge, information. I'm like, wow. And I see these things happen every day. And this is where the change lies, Darren. If we leave these younger ones, we have no leadership.
Right.
The first time I spoke to somebody, I said, do you know Africa is used to bad leadership? Bad leadership is the norm to us. That's what we know. What if we have good leadership as a platform where students are taught not to be the bad leaders, but this is how to be a good leader? Yeah. Can we have mentorship on leadership? Because we are all known to have all the corrupt leaders in Africa, Darryl. We want to change things. We can't change it by the same protocol, the same people. Students are here to say, look, we want to make a change.
Right.
Show us the way. And that's what AFOS is doing. It's bringing people like you on board, to say, okay, this guy is making the way in his podcast. Can you learn from him? What can you take from that? It's not, optometry is not just a one direction thing. Right. It's diversifying now in so many spaces. Look at what you're doing, Darryl. If someone told me when I was graduating that I could be an optometrist and do such wonderful podcast, I'll tell you that's not true. But look at the space you're covering. See how global impact is, you're making because of what you're doing now. And I guess this is where students are now learning to say there are other opportunities in optometry that can also promote eye care and equitable eye care as well in communities.
I love that. And I think this is a great point to make that transition to what you just touched on, right? Eye health, equity, and access. I've lived in Africa, Nigeria in particular. I've practiced in Nigeria, took my board, did everything I needed to do, had a clinic out there. Shout out to all my Nigerians. I was in Lekki phase 1, making it happen day in and day out, right? But to your point, there's a big need for access to care. And it's hard to even just wrap my brain around how we even solve that problem, just due to the amount of people in Africa, right? And the amount of optometrists that are there. So I'd love us to really spend some time on, some of the major challenges that we're seeing in some of our African countries, and just talk about, what we can do regionally and globally to really make a change and impact. So I'd love for you to just really dive deep into that topic, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, look, Darryl, I think, equitable eye care is not just limited to Africa, but I think it's a little bit on a larger scale in Africa because one is a very large continent, diversified with different languages, barriers in language, and optometry is quite new in so many of those countries as well. Besides Ghana and Nigeria, other optometry schools in Africa are offering a bachelor program. So you can see we are still growing. Right. However, even with that growth comes with expansion that we are looking at. Is the inequity remains everywhere. And I'll tell you what the problem is. If we look at infrastructure, Darryl, you have limited infrastructure in Africa. Virtually every African country lacks that infrastructure to train optometrists to the standard that you see in the US, in Canada, or in Australia. Right. We do need collaboration with governments, with stakeholders, companies. Because partnership is not just by donating money. It's by working together to co-create a program, a sustainable program that is culturally sensitive, that respects each other.
Levi, that what you just said was huge. A lot of people always want to throw money at a problem or a
Yeah.
situation or a condition
Yep.
or some kind of headwind that's in front of us. What you
Hmm.
just stated is just so golden and so key that I want everyone to hear that. I want you to say it again because that is a gem, my friend. That is something that will really help to not just elevate eye care in Africa, but eye care globally, to your point, because this is a global issue and concern. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind just repeating that one more time, because it touched me, my friend.
Yeah, no, and that is very true, and that's what moves me. I may not be that rich, but I do want to create things that people will benefit from. So
Yes.
I care for me, collaboration in Africa is not about donations. It's not about donating money. It's about working together, talking to the communities together to create a sustainable approach to solve problems. The communities know what the problems are. They know what their issues are. It's listening to their voices. What is it that we want? How does it help the community? And the government are used to collecting all the aids and throw them into their pocket. It doesn't help anyone. We still suffer from the same gap, ever. But I think when companies or stakeholders or funders come in place, can you catch up with the communities and know what their problems are? How do we work together to create a sustainable solution? That's what Africa needs. And I think this is where African chapter is helping. Just recently at the academy, we had a collaboration with VOSH International. VOSH came on board and said, look, we can help you to create SVOSH chapters in various schools in Africa. Within
Nice.
a year, Darryl, we've created 7 different SVOSH chapters in Africa, functional.
Fantastic.
Each of them have offered sustainable outreach programs, distributed free spectacles, gone to communities, and they are doing programs that students want to be part of. They enjoy it. Students like hands-on experiment. And they are now giving grant opportunities to do research,
Wow.
funding some schools to do research. AFOS has brought that to light. And now we are looking at schools now imbibing the same ideology. Can we be members of SVOSH? We want to do outreach program in this remote community because there are no optometrists there. So such partnership, asking what do we want? How do we help you? Is what we need. And then we can work together to create that sustainable solution that we are aiming for. I guess that's what we are looking for, Darren. And I think every organization waiting to come. Africa is a gold mine, mate. It's a gold mine. There's so many opportunities. So
Absolutely.
many. We've got the
Absolutely.
manpower, we've got the skill set. We just need the right partnership
Right.
to do things in a different way.
I love that, man. And I think, outside of just the eye care community of coming in and partnering, I think when you look at more on a large and global scale, and I'm just going to, throw a company out there, I'm going to say, I love Apple products, so Apple, right?
Hmm.
Apple comes into Africa, and rather than just donating money, they actually go to the community that they're donating the money to. They walk around with that optometrist, that eye care professional, that leader in that area, and they give them a tour of that area and they educate them on where the gaps are. This is why we can't give the vision that we need to, or the eye care that we need to. At that point, that representative from Apple or whatever organization not only is able to donate, but they may have something top of mind that, what, we got a product or device that can actually help
Exactly.
the gap of what you're experiencing. You can't get patients to the clinic. Well, we have this program where it'll shoot a text message to them every hour up until they show up, just for a reminder to make sure they get.
Exactly.
There's little things that we could do rather than just throw money at the problem. How can we, yes, continue with the money, but also provide the partnership with the knowledge that you have with your company, and also the tools and resources you have within your company as well to elevate the platform?
Darryl, I think what you just said now is key. I'll tell you a story. So VOSH funded one of our programs at University of Benin in Nigeria this year.
Okay.
That program, the research was the use of dance in promoting eye care education.
Okay.
Dance. Africans tell stories. We are storytellers. We are dancers. If you come to our party, you see we rock music. We are dancers. And we are now using that medium that people relate to pass information about myopia, glaucoma, cataract, diabetic retinopathy. Darryl, the preliminary result I'm telling you today that was presented in Ghana yesterday shows everybody who has watched that video, their knowledge improved by 25% each.
Wow.
For each, just within 30 minutes of watching the video.
That's huge,
The
man.
knowledge they have about specific eye conditions have changed significantly. We're not asking. So this is what Africa is. We cannot, our solutions are culturally based. They're not the things that work in the United States, may not work in Nigeria, may not work in Ghana, may not work in South Africa. They are different. So how do these companies come to say, okay, what do we promote similar in the US, but in a culturally sensitive way to make an impact?
Right.
That's what talking with communities look like.
I love it, man. I love it. And to me, I just to hear that stat of 25% more, awareness and education is just mind blowing, right? But it makes sense when you sit down and think about it. You want to meet people where they're at.
Yep.
You don't want to come in and just throw something and figure because you think it's the right way, that is truly the right way. How are you actually getting into that community, understanding that community, shaking hands, kissing babies, and getting to know everyone within that community
Exactly.
to make a difference and
And
change?
building trust, that's powerful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's great to bring out of box outside ideas that may work in your company, your state, your country, your continent, but what really works for the community that you're serving. That's what we got to really focus on, my friend.
Hmm.
Now, this has been great, man. We've touched on the optometric education. We've touched on advancing eye health and access to care. The next big topic that I really want to dive deep into is really about collaboration, research, and innovation. When I think about Africa, I think about innovation. I think about
Hmm.
the brain power in that continent. I think about the size. I think about the opportunity that's there. So I'd really love to dive deep into those three topics, if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, I'm a collaborator, Darryl, and that's what I do. I mean, if my middle name is not Levi, to be collaborator because I love it. And for me, collaboration is the lifeline to progress. Where I am today, I wouldn't have been here if I didn't collaborate with people. It's been a journey that yes, always been a helper somewhere because I call on them. It could be somebody I met online, it could be somebody that we had a chat with on a meeting. But
Right.
I just want to find out how can we work together respectfully and to create a solution. That's what has taken me here. And I think that's what optometry needs in Africa. It's a collaboration with partners that can understand what our cultural values are, that can understand what the needs are. I think this is what we lack. We lack people who are genuine partners, where there's an equal contribution on both sides. This is what we are looking for. And that's what VOSH did for us. And I do mention VOSH because that's a new player in the field. It's been there for a while. It's been there in North America, doing stuff in Latin America. They're doing lots of things, but we didn't hone into that. We didn't catch that breeze then. But now that we've come on board, VOSH is seeing tremendous opportunities because now they're working with the right team. They have the expertise. They know the students are willing. They say, what can we do with you?
Yeah.
And that's what genuine partnership looks like to me. And I know there are so many other people too who are looking at what's the real play. Where do we start from? Africa is a big continent. And when I walk around in Australia, people call me, oh, you're an African. I say, yeah, but there are 54 countries, mate. But we all answer the same name. We're all Africans. And that's what unity is to me. So
Right.
if companies can look at who is the right partner to work with, and that's the problem we have. Several partners have failed, companies that have tried to partner with Africans. And companies are struggling with who is the legit person to work with here.
Right.
But there are people like us. There's Cefi, there's AFCO, there is we also have VOSH International in the playing field. There are so many other NGOs that are really doing a great job. It's finding the right partners to make global impact. And I think this is what we are looking for. In optometry, it's magical. And I do see this happening the next year, because there are not differences. People are becoming fellows that way. They're connecting with the global community.
Yeah.
That opening of those doors opens opportunities to people to collaborate with diverse industrial partners. And I
I love
think that's what Africa needs, and that's going to happen soon.
I love it. And I've seen the partnerships, which you just touched on with VOSH, but also I just had the opportunity to see not too long ago, a week or two ago, in Boston at the Academy. So I would love for
Yep.
you to maybe touch on the partnerships and some of the milestones that were created there because
Mm.
you guys showed out, man. When I walked into that conference, the amount of Africans I saw, it was greatly larger than what I've seen in the previous year. So if you don't mind maybe talking about some of the milestones that you guys have touched on. And then also, I want you to be selfish and talk about your personal milestone that you received at the Academy as well.
Yeah. Look, Darryl, I think I'm very privileged to be leading the African chapter of the American Academy of Optometry. It's something that really has opened so many doors for so many young people. Prior to this time, 2022, when I became a fellow, I did ask the Academy to send me a list of African fellows. My dream was to catch up with them and say, how can you contribute to mentor young people? I know what the fellowship offers. I know what the American Academy is. I know the standards that they upheld. So I'm like, okay, can we get people who are other fellows to mentor young people to become fellows as well? So we can show them the light. And that's where the whole dream started from. People were willing to work, but I needed the key people who are committed, interested to do stuff. And we had a 10-member committee that we formed. We had 50 fellows in the whole of Africa as at 2022, Darryl. Between 2022 and now, we are about 117 fellows. So we've
Man,
increased that number by almost more than 200%.
that's
Just
hey,
in
round of
Boston alone.
applause, round of applause. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's great. Just
That's
in Boston
fantastic.
alone.
Yeah.
Darryl, we had 37 new fellows in Boston, 37 in a
Wow.
single year. These are
Wow.
people who are going back to their community to create impact. They are telling us how their clinical practice has changed just by the process of being a fellow, just by the case reports, learning how to use evidence-based research, knowing what research really is, understanding that it's a standard of optometry that was foreign to us. But now we're bringing it back home. So it's felt in the clinic, it felt in their homes, in their communities, in the community where they even go for vision outreach. They're now looking at how can we do these things in a standardized format.
Right.
That's what we're changing. Research is also another landscape that has taken different dimension now. By being involved in writing cases, but they know how to search for evidence. They know how to reference materials. They understand what research is. They know how to write manuscripts. They are learning these processes. So we are changing the landscape completely. And I'm telling you, the next 2-3 years, Africa will feel the impact of what's happening in academy, because the whole optometric care in Africa is changing. The dynamics is huge. So that's what we have. We also had new diplomates as well. Prior to this time, we only had one diplomate when I came in 2022. We now have 3 diplomates from Africa that are now in the African chapter. It's just so many people are now doing clinical investigation courses. We're introducing them to Flum Leadership Academy. We're introducing them to joining the SIG Special Interest Group, and Africans are volunteering. Darryl, this last time I was shocked. My professors were exchanging shifts at the booth to serve for membership booth as volunteers. I'm like, what is happening here? And they enjoy it. It's fun. These are things that are strange to Africa. We don't know what volunteering is,
Yeah.
But here they're seeing there's value in these things, there's joy in giving back.
Yeah.
And I enjoy seeing them. So this is my turn. I'm there in the afternoon, I'm in the morning, I'm not. We introduce them to these things. They were all there before, just nobody had ever told us that this is something we could do. So the awareness wasn't there. All what the African chapter did, the only thing we did, Darryl, was to create awareness. That's all. Is to bring awareness to the doorsteps of people who have been looking for such opportunities. And that's how this change is happening.
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, just the milestones, the awareness, the change, the impact, the community. Dr. Levi, you're a force, my friend. You have done so much to bring people together. And I'm a firm believer like you. Collaboration is king. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have the mentors, if I didn't have the partnerships, if I didn't have the relationships, if I didn't understand the brand that I am to create awareness in the things that I love and adore. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I want to thank you for the partnership that you've had with me, the partnership that you've had with Eyefrica Media, the partnership that you've had with Defocus Media. And I just want to thank you on behalf of iCare for all the great work that you have done. Now, when it's your time to retire your phoropter, we touched on this briefly earlier. What do you want to be known for, my friend? Because you've done so much, you made tremendous impact. Well, what is it that you truly want to be known for, Dr.?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That I'm still a very young guy anyway, but one day I think I still think
21,
about
right? 21.
Look, I think when it's time to retire my phoropter, look, I hope my legacy will be about empowerment and impact. And the African chapter has given me that platform to do that. I don't take that for granted because I've got a wonderful team working with me who are seeing the need to impact in other younger ones. I also want to build a generation that believe in optometry.
Yes.
That faith was lost before now. Students tell me they're changing courses. People are going to nursing, they're going to dentistry because they just think there's nothing more to do here.
Right.
So, but now they're believing that there is an opportunity besides just being in classroom. There's an opportunity to join a global network. Optometry is not just what you know; it's a lot bigger than this. I think going to the academy and then even listening to people like you speak to them, say, oh, there's an opportunity to even do podcasts in eye care.
Yes.
I could as well do social media promotion in eye care. There's lots of these things that people where it was strange to us. So I think I want to be remembered for somebody that has shown people the way to make impact in their community. And that's all we ask for, Darryl. If I go to there and somebody say, yeah, Levi showed me how to get this done, and now I've changed somebody's life, that's all I need to hear. I think that's how I'm going to leave my 4 octa.
I love it, man. I love it. And you've already done that to thousands out there, whether you're optometry students, new graduates, seasoned optometrists, hell, even ophthalmologists. You have made an impact on eye care, not just in the continent of Africa, but globally. So I hope and I pray that you continue to carry that torch and continue to empower, also continue to impact all the eye care professionals out there, not just limited to students, because you are special, my friend. And I want to continue to see that grow. If you could leave one last thing for the students out there, there's some young minds that are listening and they are a little lost in the sauce or lost and a little confused and unsure, what they can do to advance eye care and equity. What would that be?
I think I tell my students all the time, Darryl, I mean, their contribution matters. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not important. The little skill set you bring on board is important. It could change one person's life. So you start by being curious. You start by staying connected to people like you, people you meet online, people you look up to, your mentors. You also need to serve your community with humility. That's important.
I love that.
And whether through volunteering, Darryl, whether they're doing research or mentorship, every action counts towards improving eye health. That's all we look for, is to how do I make changes in my community, in my immediate surrounding? So we don't have to wait for perfection. You don't have to do it only when everything is settled. Your career opportunities come from collaborations, from partnership, from listening, for asking questions. I think they have to have the passion. Then they do. We just have to grow that passion to something that's sustainable, to say, look, there's hope in the end of the tunnel. I guess students should just be curious and
I love it.
Go in this profession with hope.
I love it. And what I'm hearing is these micro interactions turn into macro results. And we got to make sure that we truly give 100% in every encounter that we have, whether it's a patient, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a legislator, whoever it may be. Just make sure that you put your all into it. And if we're able to do that, all these small interactions will not only change what eye care looks like, but it will uplift the entire continent of Africa. I always tell folks, especially my mentees and the students that I speak to, is that eye care, optometry in particular, is a gateway into the healthcare system. What we see as eye care professionals can save a life and also change a life.
Absolutely.
And we have so much power, so much that we can do to elevate just humankind in general, the world. But it's up to us to make sure that we make that jump and make it happen. Now, for everyone that's listening to this and they want to partner with you, they want to collaborate with you, they want to empower and make an impact, what's the best way for them to connect with you, Dr. Levi?
Yeah, Darryl, I'm a social media guy. I'm everywhere, just like you. I follow you around. So you could contact me on LinkedIn. Levi Uchechukwu is my name on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. My email address to Western Sydney University. You could drop that on your podcast. I mean, either way, my phone numbers are everywhere. They're open. I have a flexible network, so feel free to reach out. If there's things we can do together, I'm very willing and keen to support and help anyone where I can. So yeah, that's all me, Darryl. So I mean, go search me anywhere.
I love it. And for everyone that's listening, we'll drop that in the companion post, it'll be the notes. That way you can tap in with Dr. Levi. Make sure you tap in with him. Make sure you make that connection, make a difference, make an impact. This is a leader here that's a trusted face, a trusted voice, someone that's making an impact and empowering the young folks. So I want you guys to tap in. Dr. Levi, thank you so much for tuning in with me. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. Stay healthy, stay positive, stay blessed. And until next time, peace.
All right. Thank you, Darryl.
Thank you for tuning in to Eyefrica Media. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on all platforms of social media.